Ooh, the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, the podcast champion, baby. Here for you for a little Sovereign Tech Wednesday Q&A. And we got some couple cool questions this week to get into. Before I do, though, a little bit of errata to get into. One is, holy shit. I am a very, very happy boy today because, and of course, I'm recording this on Wednesday. That would be January 24th, 2018. Or maybe I should get back into saying 12,018. I do have my Holocene calendar or my human era calendar behind me. I'm such a big fan of that. But anyway, today, in fact, I'll tell you a little story. It was kind of hairy. Not as in like it had a lot of follicles or, whatever. I'm bald, but no, it wasn't hairy like that. So I ordered, like a month ago. Okay, back in December, I found, so this is something I'd been looking for a while. So Entrada, in fact, I mentioned this yesterday, if you listen to my my Windows Loadout special that I released on Patreon, which I lost patrons after that. I don't know why. Whatever. I don't know what the hell I could have said there that offended you. But anyway, whatever. Not that everybody stops being a patron because they're offended. Some people fall on hard times. But anyway, I had mentioned in that I still buy CDs here and there, and particularly, I mean, the only really, and I mean physical CDs. Like, yeah, I still buy albums too, digital albums and everything. And I prefer my music digitally. I actually don't prefer it as a CD. But I still do buy them here and there. And I was looking for an album I had been wanting to get my hands on for a long time. Came out in 2008. So this is before I was really into like buying so many soundtracks at that point. And really at that time, like torrents were still such a big thing. I think music downloading has actually really fallen off, especially now. But in the past few years, it's really fallen off. And part of that is similar to why I think there's a lot of torrenting and downloading that has fallen away because of the ease of use and the extreme inexpensiveness of Netflix, right? And other services like that. But I think music, because of like Spotify, Pandora, things like this, I think those have, that has really caused like music pirating to slow down quite a bit as well. Now, I've discussed some of my annoyance with some of this too, because not only has music pirating stopped, but even like selling you albums has come to an end for many things. The example I gave, I think on a Sovereign Tech Prime episode recently, was that Voltron, like I wanted to get the season 1 soundtrack for Voltron Legendary Defender. Okay, which I found out there was a soundtrack. Here's the thing. It's only available on Spotify. Maybe it's available on other streaming services, but you can't buy it. Like, you can only stream it. And I was like, wow, that is so stupid and shitty. What the fuck? Why not sell this? This is hot music. And I mean, it is. Like, the soundtrack for Voltron Legendary Defender from Netflix is tremendous. So anyway, back in like 2007, I want to say between the times of like 2007 to maybe 2011, back when like ISO Hunt and Mini Nova and a lot of those other sites were really still around, and like when Demonoid was still in its initial run, even though it's still going today, you really could download just about anything, and there were seeders for it. Because you were still in that kind of like the nascent stage, I think, of the pirate community. Which, not to say that, I mean, the pirate community is still thriving. It's still out there, okay? But by and large, like, so for example, La La Land Records, okay? They've come out in the past year, and in the time span of 365 days, they've come out with quite a few different Star Trek soundtracks, okay? You can't find them on any torrent sites, not the latest ones that have come out. I mean, maybe, yeah, like I think the Voyager soundtrack set might have been out there, but like Enterprise Volume 2, well, Deep Space Nine Volume 2 just came out. Of course, I got that. These are big 4-disc sets, right? But like nobody's really posting those as to where, back in the, I guess 10 years ago, or maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, like you would have that stuff almost on release day because somebody was getting their hands on it and putting it up. That really seems to have fallen away. So back in 2008, when what I acquired today back in 2008, I didn't like really need to buy CDs so much, and I wasn't like even looking into buying CDs, at all. There were other things going on in my life to where I wasn't so much the music. I mean, I've always been a music aficionado, but I guess you could say I'd taken somewhat of a break at that point. Not really a break, but it wasn't the big thing. Regardless, okay. So fast forward to December 2017. There's an album that came out in 2008, only a limited run, maybe 3,000 copies were made. It's not available digitally. Just stop. If you think I wouldn't have thought of that, you're crazy. And I couldn't find it, obviously, on any torrent sites or anything, because here's the thing. So this album is, and I know this might seem anticlimactic, but it's a very big deal to me. The album is Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Yes, the 1979/1980 soundtrack for the original film/pilot episode, okay, of Buck Rogers, the classic with Gil Gerard and Aaron Gray, one of my favorite shows of all time, like easily in my top 10. It was one of the first things I covered in at the time it was called Pick of the Week, but will later become the climax of Sovereign Tech all those years ago. I mean, the show just means everything to me. It's so inspirational. I base a lot of what I do in the Sovereign Universe, which we might get to a question about that later. I base a lot of what I do on the tone, the feel, the stylings of Buck Rogers from 1980. So this album normally will sell for, if you go to Amazon right now and you look this up, brand new, it'll sell for $600. I'm not kidding. Like that's now. I mean, you can find I think Entrada. If it wasn't Entrada, then it was La La Land, but I think it was Entrada. They released over the past couple of years. They released like a 4-disc set for the music for Volume 1 or for Season 1, and a 4-disc set for Season 2 of Buck Rogers. Those you can find and you can get for under $100. And that's not even a crazy price, because when they first came out, they probably sold for 50 or 60. Okay. A lot of these 4-disc sets will sell for 50 or $60. So nothing crazy about that. But this one is rather rare. And I found it on eBay. I got, an alert and everything. And a guy out of Britain was selling it for like $60. Again, normally it sells for $600. There are it's other people selling it, and some people might be selling it for around $200 if it's opened, but completely sealed $600. I don't care if it was sealed. That doesn't matter to me. Fuck, I would have paid $60 for the MP3s, if the guy just wanted to send me the MP3s. And here's the thing. So I get it. I win the auction in December, really excited. I'm like, holy shit. Yes. Like my life is feeling a level of completeness that you can never understand. And especially because like the one thing I wanted on there, not that I couldn't just get like a low quality MP3 of it anyway, but the main thing that I wanted, and I wanted to have it in super high quality, I wanted the opening theme from the movie, which is Far Beyond the Stars. And that song to me, like, it's cheesy as hell, but it's so epic and just it's so hot for me. And I know that's just me. Anyway, I'm like, okay, great. I won it, it's going to be coming. And I just so excited about it, feeling great. And I'm waiting a couple of weeks, and yeah, I know it's coming from Britain, so it's going to take a little while. But then it never shows up. And then one day I get an email from the seller, and they said, look, this got returned. Like this didn't pass through customs. I don't know. He said, that's never happened to me before. He says, I ship to the US all the time. I don't know what exactly happened here. And, he's like, do you want me to refund? I mean, he was great. He's like, do you want me to refund it? Do you want me to try sending again? He's like, let me know what you want me to do. And so I was like, look, I have to have this CD. Please, whatever it takes, send it again. And this is a week and a half ago, maybe. And the guy, this morning, knock on the door. It's the mail woman. And, hey, Brian, here we need you to sign for this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. Cause we get packages here all the time. and I signed for it, and I knew exactly what it was. And so that's what it took. It took some kind of like a degree of getting certified mail. I mean, I don't know what the fuck is going on at customs where they have to check a goddamn CD. Like or a CD can't get through. I think that's so crazy. Of course, maybe they're to that point of paranoia where they think that some CD being masked is like, I don't know, like a rare CD. It's almost like sending rare artwork in rugs. You know what I mean? And hiding it in rugs, or like hiding cocaine in toys or something like that. Maybe they're worried that there's some kind of virus getting sent in, some kind of malware getting sent into the country via CD, shipping from Britain. It was the weirdest shit in the world, but fortunately the guy, like I said, the guy was great, sent it. I got it. I've already converted it to, 192K MP3s. And I've got it in my, I'm listening to it in Groove Music. I've been listening to it this morning, one tear running down my face, the whole thing. And I was so fucking excited about this. Like, maybe I'll take a picture of me holding it and I can, I'll use that for the cover art or something for this episode. But I am just so jazzed. And I actually listened to most of the soundtrack already. I mean, it's fantastic. It's really, really, really stunning. Just how amazing. That soundtrack is. Of course, it's done by Stu Phillips, who also did the music for a lot of Glenn A. Larson properties, including he would do the music for Battlestar Galactica, which I have a four disc set of that classic one that they only made 1,000 copies of back in the 90s. Just one of the greatest scores of all time, also one of the greatest TV shows of all time. Stu Phillips would also go on to do Knight Rider, equally a great score, equally a great show. Well, maybe not equally, but genuinely a great show. So anyway, this is really cool. I'm so happy about this. You don't know. And you better believe that there's going to be some fun had, because like there's that little like kind of quasi 70s porn music that was used for when Princess Ardala is seducing Buck Rogers. You better believe I'm going to be playing that at the right moments, baby. Oh yeah. In my own life, not even for fictional episodes. Ooh, that's some good shit. Anyway, we have some questions to get in. Oh, there's another bit of a rant I wanted to talk about. Okay, actually two more. One is tech related, the other is not necessarily tech related. And that is and this hit pretty hard yesterday, that being January 23rd, 2018. Wow. Ursula K. Le Guin died, who, let's just call it. There's a lot of them, but she's one of the greatest science fiction writers of all time. She's really deserving. I mean, we might get into this more on this week's Sovereign Tech Prime episode. Maybe I'll talk about it for the climax. We'll see. I have some other stuff already lined up. I've had stuff that's lined up forever to talk about. Maybe I'll have it start bleeding into the Patreon episodes. But man, like this woman, I mean, talk about a grandmaster. I mean, she was the real fucking deal. And what's a real pity is that, well, there's a lot of real pities. Obviously, best known probably, especially among my audience, for writing The Dispossessed, which is a classic book. She ended up with a lot of her books. She ended up kind of joining them together into one larger universe, even though originally they may not have been written that way. But she wrote The Dispossessed, which is one of the rare, really well-regarded and high-selling novels that is explicitly anarchist. And okay, it's not ANCAPism, but woohoo, most anarchism isn't. I know that shocks people. What? There's anarchists who aren't ANCAPs? Yeah, guess what? Most of the world, when people hear the word anarchist, they don't even necessarily think violence or anything like that, but they sure as fuck don't think anarcho-capitalism. It's amazing that ANCAPs think that they have some kind of routing on the term anarchism, or that they think they're the only real anarchists. It's one of the most mind-blowing things that even when I used to consider myself an anarcho-capitalist, I never, ever, ever fooled myself into believing that somehow anarcho-capitalism is the only form of anarchism, or that the rest of the world, when I said I'm an anarchist, would think capitalism. I mean, that's mind-blowing that kind of thinking goes on. Anyway, The Dispossessed, phenomenal anarchist work. So many quotable points in that. It's a story that, I mean, look, when it came out in its day, we're talking decades ago, it might not seem as revolutionary today as it was then. And I think that is because now, like what made that book so great, especially growing up. First off, you got to read it in high school. I mean, that fucking awesome. But like the sex was the big thing for me. It's like, wow, we get to read, like there's sex in this. This is great. Now that's order of the day. I mean, now you can do 50 Shades of Grey. You can do all this shit, and that can be on a Barnes & Noble shelf, right next to Grand Illusions. Like it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Okay. But back then that was risque stuff. And I think that's part of the reason that it still stands up, because most people, I don't think, regard it for its, anarchist flavor. Because most people that would teach that aren't anarchists. That would like have that book be a part of their curriculum, be it in high school or college, probably aren't anarchists. So, but it still holds up. And I mean, I guess what could be appealing to it isn't necessarily the anarchism, but how it questions so many of the mores and so many of the institutions of society in general. Okay. But for me, that book was really all about the sexy, and it was so exciting to have that there. Left Hand of Darkness, of course, another absolute classic. And that's a classic because she really, again, decades ago was exploring what does a world look like without gender? And that's what that book, mainly has to deal with. And I think that this is what science fiction is. It's not what it has to do, but it is what it does, and it is what it's really and very uniquely good at, is exploring the human condition and human potential, human possibilities. And Ursula K. Le Guin did that. I mean, she made it happen all the way, and better than most. And she was staunchly feminist. Frankly, look, understand that in the good old boys network that science fiction once was, and there really was a time for that. I mean, you picture something like Harlan Ellison's Dangerous Visions or something like that. That was really, where he's highlighting Octavia Butler and all these other people. I mean, like that was an earth-shattering, speculative fiction was what Harlan would call it, anthology. It was a boys' club. Science fiction for a good little while was a boys' club. And, some of them, like Asimov and others, would be very welcoming of having women involved, and Harlan included. But there was a lot of them that, no, we don't, in fact, it wasn't even just a boys' club. It was also kind of racist at points. Like science fiction had its, in what was the broader publishing world was having, was very, very, it could be seen as very misogynistic and other things, while at the same time, with a lot of the grandmasters and the names that you still know today, of course, they were trying to break all of that down. And I think they successfully did. And science fiction's effect on civilization, on humanity, is probably never going to be, completely and, sufficiently gauged. Because I think it may be near incalculable of how forwarding science fiction is for who we are and what we are now, and where we could go. But that was the amazing thing, was that Ursula K. Le Guin was, she was selling, like she was getting critical acclaim, she was selling, and she was a feminist. Again, in an industry that may not have been so kind about that. And kudos to her, like her novels. And look, even if you bristle at the word feminism, you're going to get something out of reading Ursula K. Le Guin, hands down. And if you want to read Earthsea, or what I was going to say earlier, one of the big shames is that her work has never really been adapted to a lot of other mediums, not even comic books, let alone films. I mean, there's Lay the Heaven, of course, George Orr. I mean, that's a classic. But there was the Earthsea series that the Sci-Fi Channel did, but in usual Sci-Fi Channel fashion, outside of maybe The Expanse, they fucked it up. Like they didn't really deliver. They tried to make a teeny bopper bullshit thing, as to where Ursula K. Le Guin was so far above and beyond that, as was the Earthsea series. So a real loss at 88. And like I said, I plan on getting more into that in this week's Sovereign Tech Prime episode. But if you've never read any of Le Guin's work, please read her. She is just, she was amazing. Okay, so moving on from that, the last bit of errata is something that we also will be talking about probably on this week's Sovereign Tech Prime episode. Is boy is Intel fucking up. All of the patching Meltdown and Spectre, like it's getting ugly Linus Torvalds is freaking out. I mean, like, and not that he's exactly right in what he's freaking out about, but regardless, it's getting ugly out there. And Intel is really, really dropping the ball. Once again, I'll tell you, kudos to them. I know I tweeted about this a couple weeks ago, but kudos to the Raspberry Pi, right? Like I say, that little machine of dreams. I mean, because it wasn't affected by any of it. It just didn't care, and it just keeps on going. And it's like, the cheapest computer you can get, and you can do so much on it. So impressed by that, just because of the way that the Raspberry Pi Foundation, or the creators, kind of limited the ARM processor involved. Brilliant move. Nice work. Not that it could be affected. I think Meltdown, right? Meltdown's the one that only affects Intel processor. Spectre is the one that affects the broader, AMD potentially, and ARM. Not that Meltdown would have been a problem for it, but regardless, Spectre, no issue. So fantastic on that. That's probably something we'll be talking about quite a bit. And the Sovereign Tech newsletter should be out either when you hear this or a little bit later, or maybe Thursday. So, and that has some tools for, potentially what you could do to try and solve Spectre and Meltdown on your own equipment. Also, really great response from a lot of people. Really have been enjoying the Sovereign Rewinds. Thank you. I'm honored that you enjoyed those. And there are still many more to come. I don't know that I'm going to release any more in January, because I kind of put out, quite a bit. And I already have a lot of other stuff scheduled to come out, even in, well, let's see, we're like the 23rd or 24th today. Even though there's a lot more there's not a whole ton of days left in the month. There's still a lot of episodes, a lot of content to come out. So some of which is, what I monthly guarantee to you, like the Star Trek update, the Star Wars update, the Relationship Rhombus show. And of course we have the live Q&A, which if you didn't get the notification on Patreon, the live Q&A will be the live hangout will be January 28th. That's going to be this Sunday. If you're listening to this on release day, it'll be this Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Okay, and it'll run till about 5. So, and then, Royal Rumble's that night. So I'm not going to miss that 30-woman Royal Rumble. I mean, the stock Royal Rumble is going to be great too, but that's going to be some pretty earth-shattering stuff there, no doubt. So, okay. Let's get into some of our questions here, and got some fun ones. So first off, Stallion, I know you're really into PC gaming, and what is going on with SteamOS and Steam machines? Does it still well, okay. So it kind of lengthy, but pretty much asking, like, is it still viable to use one of these? Wow. So this is a hell of a thing, and in fact, I got to admit, when I got the question, I was like, well, who's really thought about SteamOS in a while? So what SteamOS is, SteamOS came out in 2013. So, wow, that's almost 5 years ago. Or at least it was announced in 2013. And the Steam machines, I think, were being sold, so there was SteamOS 1.0. Steam machines were coming out pretty shortly thereafter. Like Alienware had one, a couple other companies had them. And then I think in like 2015 or 2016, they all pretty much went on sale, and there hasn't been anybody else. Like Origin PC was going to start making them. They canceled their plans to do that. Falcon Northwest and some others, I think they all canceled their plans to make Steam machines. And so the Steam machines themselves, which were supposed to be the concept behind this. So SteamOS, first of all, is based on Debian. I think they're up to version 2.0 of SteamOS, which version 2.0 came out, though, I want to say they came out like late 2015, and it's based on Debian 8, as to where we're already like to like Debian 9.3. So, I mean, not that you have to like upgrade, Debian all the time, but that's kind of weird. Anyway, so Steam machines, the concept was taking PC gaming and turning it into something that looked more like a traditional console. And functioned more like a traditional console, to take on, say, and these would be machines that would cost around the same price that, say, a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, whatever part of the Xbox One family you're talking about, would end up costing. Okay, this was the basic idea behind a Steam machine, and it would be something that you would put in your living room. It's not something that would be at a computer desk at all, or at least not. It's not supposed to be. That wasn't the design. And of course, Steam came out with their own game controller, which was a unique idea. Like, it had these kind of touchpads that could function kind of like a mouse if it needed to, but then also function like an analog stick, like you'd expect on a traditional console controller, like for the Xbox or for a PlayStation or something. And this more, like, let's just say it. This appears to be, the Steam machines are certainly dead. You can still buy them. You can still buy the Steam game controller. And they also have another piece of hardware they have is the Steam Link, which is kind of, I think, when they realized that Steam machines weren't going to make it. The Steam Link, the idea behind that is that it's a little box that you connect to your, kind of like a Roku or a Fire TV or something. It's a little box that you connect to your television in your living room, and that connects to your gaming rig, your gaming PC, somewhere else in the house, and wirelessly, and it allows you to, without having to have a, media PC or something sitting next to your television, it allows you to play your Steam library right on your TV. And it connects, of course, to the, to the Steam game controller and all this. None of these ideas, in my opinion, including the Steam game controller, have taken off. Like, they're not flying. I haven't, in fact, I've talked to some friends who are big gamers and a lot of other people. Nobody, or even when I play online with them, if I'm playing Mortal Kombat XL or something like that, nobody's using the Steam game controller. Everybody is using an Xbox 360 controller, pretty much. Unless you're doing some other kind of classic gaming or something, then maybe you're using something from, what is it? 8-Bit Do, right? 8-Bit Do, I think that's the name of the company. I have their SNES 30 Pro controller, or not their SNES 30, but their NES 30 Pro controller. That's pretty much what it comes down to, is that most people are using Xbox 360 or maybe an Xbox 360 controllers, but pretty much, or an Xbox One controller. And those are great because they have, maybe I could have saved this whole question and conversation because I am going to be doing like a gaming software special, but whatever. I think this is important to talk about. Like the new Xbox One controllers, they have Bluetooth built into them. I mean, they connect beautifully right to, any PC you throw it at. And it even works nicely on Linux, quite frankly. And so, yeah, I don't know anybody using the Steam game controller. I just don't. I know people that have them, but I don't know anybody that's like that's their go-to that they're using. And I think like they were trying to make it so that the Steam game controller could even, do a better job of controlling an RTS, which if anybody from back in the 90s remembers like trying to play StarCraft 64 or like even even like Warcraft 2 on the original PlayStation, on the PS1 and all this, how much of a pain in the ass it was to use a regular controller instead of a PC, or instead of like the PC setup of a mouse and keyboard. I mean, how bad it was. Like that, it was practically impossible. In fact, I remember even on it was on the PlayStation 3 when I tried playing Red Alert 3, one of my Command & Conquer Red Alert 3, one of my favorite games of all time. Playing that, and it's not just because Ric Flair is in it, but trying to play that on PlayStation 3, which they optimized and made us like a special edition of that game for PlayStation 3, it was still a pain in the ass. Like you really, it just doesn't work. Or I remember playing Dune 2000 on the PS1, and they even tried to like make that kind of 3D and everything. It sucks. It sucks. People got to accept it. There's a lot of games where, sure, a console controller makes all the sense in the world. But there's also a lot of games where, keyboard and mouse is still king. And it's amazing that somehow that became a deal. Like how versatile that setup really is. It's really mind-blowing. But that's a whole philosophical conversation for another time. So anyway, SteamOS. So all of this hardware has, in my opinion, failed. And SteamOS, I think, it feels like it's been forgotten because it hasn't had a major update in a long time. I think the nightmare scenario that Gabe Newell was expecting, and I was a bit concerned about it myself, I won't deny, okay? I think the nightmare scenario that Microsoft was going to close down gaming on Windows 10 to where you had to get your games through the Play Store, or not the Play Store, I'm sorry, through the Microsoft Store, or, whatever, where there had to be very approved things, which I know, you have Windows 10S where that would still be kind of true, right? I think that those fears ended up being unfounded. Like, Microsoft knows that one of its bread and butters, for making money off of Windows and for the ecosystem that Windows supports and that supports Windows in turn, comes very much from the PC gaming community. And look, Steam is still king. As much as I wish GOG.com was, or, itch.io and all these other ones that I just love, Steam is still king. But it's not king enough to where people are willing to, to run to SteamOS, or where they're willing to run to install SteamOS, whatever. And there's problems. Like, I think there's something, people have said something to the effect of like a 30%, there's been different studies, not exactly comprehensive, but there have been different, research done that showed that there was like a 20 to 30% drop in gaming performance using SteamOS compared to Windows 10. For PC gamers, that's a big fucking problem. Like they will not stand for that for a second. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that it's SteamOS's fault. The problem could be with like OpenGL on Linux and lots of this other stuff, and really adapting for that. But that's a problem. If you run into that, you are not going to be a happy boy. So yeah, again, this really does seem like something that has completely fallen away. They still support it. They still offer, like Valve, the company that, of course, that runs Steam, still offers, OEMs and companies to make Steam machines. I don't know anybody that's really doing it. I don't know many people that are buying it. I know a lot of people bought it when all these machines went on sale and everything. But it's really just not going anywhere. Also, I think a lot of people, instead of like just getting SteamOS, because there are a lot more games today that are supporting Linux than there have ever been. I mean, by orders of magnitude. I think a lot of people are just running Ubuntu, and they'll put Steam on Ubuntu, and they do that. If you're really into Linux, you're not going to go the SteamOS route. You're just going to install Ubuntu on your laptop or on your computer or whatever, which I think is fine. And you're just going to run those games that way. I do that with some of my games. You can play TIE Fighter now on Ubuntu. Okay. Then nothing else really matters. Like, it doesn't matter. We don't need SteamOS. We don't need all this stuff. As long as you can play TIE Fighter, who gives a shit? I say that half jokingly. But yeah, so SteamOS has really just kind of died off because, again, it's sort of redundant in that you can just do all of this on Ubuntu, and having the Steam box idea was kind of the main thrust behind SteamOS. And with Steam boxes Steam machines, whatever, not being a thing anymore, SteamOS is redundant because, like I said, people would just install Ubuntu. And also the fact that, like Microsoft has not closed down Windows 10 from independent gaming at all. And so there was no real, need for concern. And there was a time where, yes, like, Microsoft sounded like they were positioning themselves to where they were going to close off other gaming stores, but that didn't happen. It didn't happen, and I don't know that it's ever going to happen. Not exactly in the way that Gabe Newell and others thought back in 2012, 2013 when Windows 10 was becoming a thing. And also, you also had the perfect storm of that. So many people hated Windows 8 that I think maybe Gabe thought, hey, here's our chance. This is the time for another operating system to swoop in. And it didn't happen, once again, that was another thing where no, Windows 10 came out and it ended up being pretty much a hit, for most people. So not a huge deal. I will say that as of SteamOS 2.0, the requirements, this was another thing that I think that kept it from catching on. I think a lot of people would have installed SteamOS, but it required at the time, when it first came out, it needed a 1 terabyte hard drive. And we're talking back in 2013. That wasn't exactly order of the day or the direction that things were going, nor is it really still going now. That was, especially if you're putting in solid state drives, 1 terabyte solid state drives were not cheap at the time. They're still not exactly cheap, but that wasn't an inexpensive venture by any means. And so I think that turned a lot of people off. Now you need significantly less. You still need a lot, though. Like, I think the specs are still in the hundreds of gigs that you need to install SteamOS. It's such a weird operating system. So I'm not surprised, really, I guess, that it didn't catch on based upon, how things have shaped up with it. But yeah, very, very weird, all of that. Even though, I've seen it in action, and like what's really cool about it is, when we watch so many science fiction movies and stuff that takes place in the future, you see all these wild operating systems and all these wild UIs and everything that people are running on. SteamOS is kind of that wild UI. That you wouldn't, that you expected the future to kind of look like, which is maybe why it needs so much hard drive space. But it's such a shame that more operating systems aren't coming out with these really like insane drop down menus and all this other shit that'll show up, on your PC. I applaud SteamOS for really trying something different, but I don't know, maybe the world's not ready for it. And maybe people know that, and that's why the major operating systems don't do wild shit with their user interface. So anyway, SteamOS, I dare say it's pretty much dead. I wouldn't mess with it. I would just, if I really wanted to run games on Linux, I would just install Ubuntu and go. Or like I said, recently on the Windows loadout special, just have a Windows computer that sits off to the side and doesn't do anything except play games for you. That's a totally valid option. So, all right, let's move on to another bit of questions here. Stallion, I've recently heard you talk about not sending nudes over messaging apps. Do you have any recommendations for how to send nudes or how to record any home videos? And that's put in quotes. Oh boy. Okay, I've talked about this quite a few times. All right, this whole business. And yes, I think maybe it was on a recent Relationship Rhombus show where Stephanie and I were talking about, or maybe it was even, I know we've talked about it on Sovereign Tech Prime too. We were talking about like how to send nudes and things like this. Like usually you don't want to send your face. I mean, like, I don't want to be too extreme on that. First off, the real issue is that nudity should not be a problem. It should not be something that is tantamount to blackmail against people or shaming. Like, obviously, like, let's just get that right out of the way. Because that's the real problem. Forget about security and things like this. It's just, we live in such a sick world that nudity is seen as something terrible, that the human body is seen as something that, can be used against somebody, as a way to shut them up, or like I said, as blackmail, or as a way to shame somebody. If you ever doubted my point that from the ground up, society is so screwed, here is exhibit A of proof that yes, it is. Because you in your own skin cannot be comfortable. That's fucking outrageous. Fucking outrageous. And you know exactly who to blame. It's society. It's social mores. It's religion. It's, government laws. Fucking laws. Threat of the gun if you are seen naked. And look, there's plenty of people that, I am a nudist / naturist. I am all for that. I fucking hate clothes. I really hate clothes. Don't bring up the winter stuff. Don't do it. I've already addressed that a million fucking times. But bottom line, I consider myself among that ilk, and I don't care. Yeah, I get it. There's people who have bodies that maybe you don't find attractive or you don't want to see or something, but I don't care. I want to, everybody should be able to walk around nude or something. There's a big difference between walking around nude and then walking around and jerking off. Those are not the same thing at all. All right. But I wish everybody could do that. And it's insane that you cannot walk around nude. And there is, at the end of the day, it's threat of the gun if you do. Just think about that. That's preposterous. So anyway, I'm not saying you can't have your face in a picture that you send over Signal. If you are going to send nudes, as we've said, as Stephanie and I know said many times, you send them over Signal. Like, that is the way to go. I would not necessarily recommend doing it any other way. So, as that goes, and, you can send full body and all that. I mean, if you're really concerned, if you don't trust the person 100% or whatever, or maybe you don't feel you have your best practices, going on your digital life, then sure, don't get your face in it and try not to make it full body or something. I mean, then okay, that's a very safe avenue, safe route to go. All right. Now, but as far as home video, okay, this is something that we need to talk about, and I've had a similar solution for a very, very long time. There used to be great solutions for how to make. I mean, I'm guessing by what you're asking, you're pretty much asking, how do you do like home porn? Okay, this is something. Interestingly enough, this is an area where I think society is actually going forward, and I'll tell you why. Because if you go to Pornhub. Not that I watch a ton of porn, okay, but I keep an eye on all these various industries as they relate to tech. And as Mistress Harley, the tech dom, very eloquently said, and many of others have said, from Motley Crue to a whole bunch of people, that, porn and sex, forwards technology. And I think that that's absolutely true, that does happen in a very real sense. Not in the, there's other things that drive it, but that is a major part of it. If you go to like Pornhub and a lot of these other places, there are so many, you can become effectively a Pornhub star, not a porn star. You become a Pornhub star where there are amateurs, independent people who just become major hits on Pornhub. And, they'll have like the little blue check mark next to their name and everything, that they're a verified user and a verified amateur uploader and all this. And you can create, just like you create a YouTube channel. Instead of YouTube videos, though, you're making porn. A gal and her boyfriend, or a gal and her girlfriend, or however it takes shape. Okay, and you can become a very big deal, and you can make money off of it. You can get subscribers and all this different shit, and they even have they've kind of gamified it to where there's achievements that you can reach, that you can unlock, and all this. I mean, it's really fascinating, that's really a thing. And that's my point, is that there are a lot of people, and these are a lot of them women, obviously, nature of Pornhub, but though there's gay sex there too, of different types. But there's a lot. They're showing their face. They're not hiding anything. Oftentimes, ironically, the guy's hiding, which I don't quite get that, but maybe that might be on purpose because, the woman wants you to imagine that it's you. And if you can see the person's face, you can't imagine that it's you, doing the stooping with her or whatever's going on. But yeah, so this is becoming an independent amateur porn star, and maybe even amateur is an insulting term, or isn't the best term. But becoming an independent porn star has really become a thing, and it's taking over the internet in a very real sense. In fact, at some point, I might want to get one of those people onto Sovereign Tech, to talk about what their experience is like, and what the whole entrepreneurial side of that is. Okay, because I'd be intrigued to hear a lot more about it myself. So society's getting a little bit forward on that, because at least now people are willing to make home videos of themselves. Sure, maybe they're getting some kind of return out of it, some kind of monetary or some kind of benefit out of it. But they're willing to do it, and it's out there and it's happening. And I think that's dynamite. I think that's just tremendous. And if you're proud of it, people really can't use it against you. It's like, no, I'm fucking proud of it. And that's the thing. That's the whole concept of letting your freak flag fly, right? Fly high. Because let the world, goddamn it, know. No, I'm a freak, and you can't use that against me because I'm proud of it. And great. I think that's absolutely beautiful. But say you don't want to upload it to Pornhub. Say you want it to be, something that's literally just kept to you. No, I do not recommend using just your smartphone camera. Okay. Those videos can get uploaded at any given moment to who knows what, and you may not even think about it. It could go up to Google Drive or OneDrive or wherever you want, or Google Photos, wherever you want your videos backed up to. I really don't recommend that. Okay. Now, it's a little bit different with, because I don't even know of an app, and maybe I should look into this deeper. I don't even know of an app that tries to record video and put it in a secure enclave. I know the Guardian Project has tried to do things like that, but I think they've had varying results as far as that goes. One of the nice things about Signal is Signal will, has a, kind of a secure enclave that it creates, and it allows you to access your camera to take a picture that stays within Signal pretty much and doesn't automatically download to your, and when you send it, it doesn't automatically download to the other person's phone or anything. That way it doesn't go up to the cloud, right? So, that's a great way to do it, but that's generally only for pictures, not so much for video. Okay. And even then, say you wanted to actually keep that video, well, at some point you're going to have to get it onto some other device, and then you're going to have to download it on, pretty much you'd have to save it outside of Signal into your phone's gallery. Okay. And that could be a real problem. So the best thing to do here, and really this is a best practice across the board for just about anything when it comes to security, even though some may see it as extreme. And I've talked about this quite a few times, but I know I have a lot of new listeners, so let's bring up let's bring up the old trick to the new boys and gals and Z's. What you want to do is you want to have a separate piece of hardware. You want to have a separate camera. Okay. Now, you want this camera to not be connected to the internet. You don't want it to have Wi-Fi. You want it to be very basic, where maybe it can. Hopefully, it can at least do some kind of SD card or micro SD card or something like that. But it has no radios built into it. It's not going to send anything anywhere. If you want to be really, really secure about making your home porn videos, okay, you don't want it. You don't even want, because you're going to have to trust a soft switch, right? That's saying, oh yeah, Wi-Fi's off. Okay, whatever you say there, Jack. No, you want this to be like a kind of a self-contained device in a very real sense. Okay. And so the best way to go about that is, now I have what I call my porn cam, okay, where it's an older, and I mean older as in this thing is probably 15 years old, maybe even a little older than that, okay. It's the Vivitar DVR 530. That is the model. Now, there had been models after the 530. 530 is kind of an older one. But the DVR 530 from Vivitar, and I think I looked on eBay, somebody had one for like $20 that you could buy. I think I paid like $250, or I paid some crazy amount back in again, that was, 15 years ago. Something like that. Well over a decade anyway. And the nice thing about this is, there are no radios on this thing. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no bullshit. None of that. All right. Now, because it's so old, obviously it only has like a 5 megapixel camera, which is pretty goddamn weak. It does not have HD recording, and if you're wanting it, your porn in HD, then this would not be an option for you, and you're probably not going to find a very good option. Because even the high end like Sony's and all that you can buy today, like these video cameras, most of them will have Bluetooth or like Wi-Fi built into them now, or they'll fucking run Android. It's crazy. But I'm sure you can find something maybe that would fit your bill better. Bottom line being, you want to get a standalone camera of some kind that doesn't have any radios, doesn't connect. You're not even really going to connect it via USB. It's hopefully going to take, like I said, some kind of SD card or whatever. Like my Vivitar takes an SD card. It takes a very old style of SD card. Like you can't put more than 4 gigs in it, whatever. Not that that's a big deal because the resolution is significantly lower. You can hold hours and hours and hours on it, on a very small SD card. So that's not really an issue. It only has, and this is a very limited thing. Like it has 4x digital zoom, so you can't really pull a whole lot of tricks with it. It does have a built-in flash. It can work as a camera as well, which is also handy for that, where it's not just video, but I could also take pictures with it. And I've done that, it's something I carry it with me often, with a blank SD card in it, by the way. Don't try taking it from me and think you're going to find something good on there. This is something I bring with me on travels, whatever, because you never know what you're going to be doing. And it's a lot of fun, and that's your porn cam. It is this completely separate device. And then if you have like a separate computer where you wanted to store that, or, you had your own, I don't know, something on your net, not barely even connected to your network, if even connected to your network, where, you had maybe like a Vercrypt, like an encrypted, container of some kind that you could put those in, however that all takes shape. I mean, like there's just, this is stuff if you're really concerned about it, this is stuff that you want to make sure is locked down and do it right. And the best way to do, as close to 100% security, there's no such thing really, but as close as you can get to it is you got to go with separate hardware. Do not use your smartphone for this sort of shit unless you want it at some point to get leaked somehow, if you have concerns around that. So, yeah, you don't have to go with something as old school as what I have with my DVR 530, but I'd recommend going the older the better as far as this goes, as far as getting a porn cam. And the nice thing, too, is my Vivitar, I mean, the real beauty of it is the thing is like smaller than the average smartphone today. It's very tiny. And so it is easily packable and you can set it up very simply. And it has its own little built-in screen on it. I mean, a very small screen, but it has a little built-in screen, a little speaker on it and everything, so that they, kind of folds up and out. That way the screen does. That way you can, watch right on there. If you wanted to just keep it all on the device, you could just watch it right on there. Like I could just, if I wanted, I could just have a library of SD cards. And I could only view them on that device and never have to connect them to, another device or anything, or plug it into another computer or something. So that's nice. If it's a really self-contained, and boy, if it's pocketable, I mean, like all of that is great. Like I think that's a great option. So yeah, and have fun, rock and roll. I mean, maybe you want to put in special effects and all this other shit. I've certainly been tempted to do that sort of thing as well. Again, if you're going to do that sort of stuff, well, just bear in mind that there's the chance. Well, I'll tell you step number 1, do not install Google Photos on your fucking computer, because Google Photos scans your entire computer for every video and picture on your computer. Again, this is another area. Do not get involved with Google as much as you can help it. Just don't. Okay? There's some things that we have to use from Google. If you feel like you have to use YouTube, you feel like you got to use Hangouts. I use Hangouts, to do the live Q&As. I can't wait until I don't have to anymore, and that time's coming. But just don't use Google services, because they are just sucking up every ounce of data that they possibly can about you. More so, I think, than any other company. They are so terrible. So anyway, so there you go. That's how you make a home porn video, is you get an antiquated, and I mean, it's going to cost you less, isn't that great? But you get an antiquated, porn cam. Don't even use a webcam. Make it a completely separate device. No radios on it whatsoever. You make sure that shit's locked down. And I hope that your lady friend or guy friend or whoever will find it to be, will find your concern for privacy to be incredibly sexy, which I think it is. So there we go. Okay, let's get into, we got time for one more. I don't think we'll be able to get into the Sovereign Universe question, but do have some really cool stuff coming up with the Sovereign Universe. We had such a great time having Ellen Ball over. Ellen is such a dear friend of mine, and for me and Stephanie, and it was, the three of us, we were just in the studio having a great time. It was tremendous doing all that. So a lot of fun stuff coming your way. Okay, so the next question is, I kind of boiled it down here. What's the cheapest equipment I can buy for working out? And, I read this, and first off, I'm getting a lot of emails of people saying that for 2018, they really want to start taking their health very seriously. They want to start working out, doing all this. I think that's dynamite. Good for you. I think that's awesome. You don't have to, but I think there's really something to that kind of mind body, that like the health of one directly correlates and affects the health of the other, and it goes both ways. I really think, and I think we're more than our mind. So having a healthy body leads to perhaps a healthy form of consciousness overall. Just putting that out there. But the best you is what you decide. Okay, I'm not judging here. So okay, the cheapest equipment you can buy for working out. I mean, basically the question was like, what's the one thing I could get, that would really, up their game. And so I'm not going to recommend a dumbbell. I'm not going to recommend any kind of pair of gloves or anything like that. I'm not going to recommend any of that kind of stuff. And you don't even have to buy this. Earlier we were talking about torrenting albums and everything. You could probably, I just gave you the hint. You could probably torrent this, and that is get like a Best of Rocky CD or album, like soundtrack, or if you want to do the bonus, I mean, you can buy it and you could probably get it for like $8 digitally or something, and the CD would probably be even cheaper if you got a used one. Or you could get get the Rocky IV soundtrack or something. That one alone would actually do you pretty well, because the Rocky IV soundtrack has Eye of the Tiger and a lot of the Hearts on Fire, No Easy Way Out, and kind of has the fanfare with the war theme. I mean, Vince DiCola's work of the soundtrack for Rocky IV is tremendous. But that's my answer: is get a Rocky CD, a Rocky album. Nothing will inspire you more than listening to that. And if you've never watched the Rocky movies, for fuck's sake, go watch those movies. That's one of the greatest movie series of all time. Just easily. Just easily. And it's still going. I mean, we got Creed 2 coming up. I can't wait for that. And it's going to be with Ivan Drago's son. Oh, it's going to be tremendous. And that's going to be a real revenge story, because, Ivan Drago killed Apollo Creed. I mean, shit. So, I can't wait for that. But anyway, yeah, seriously. I say it, it's kind of a joke, but not really. Nothing gets my pump going. Nothing gets my blood flowing. Nothing gets me more excited and more engaged and more intense into the workout. Frankly, even more so than most metal. Nothing does it like a Rocky soundtrack. It just, you're listening to it and you're just feeling it and you're ready to do the training montage, the whole thing. And what's it going to cost you? $5, $10, $15, whatever. It's amazing. Or nothing. You could just torrent it. But it's one of the best things you could add to your workout arsenal, in my opinion, is a great Rocky score. And if you're not feeling like working out, just put Gonna Fly Now on, or Eye of the Tiger. You'll be in the mood just like that. Just instantaneously, you're gonna get in the mood where, all right, no, I'm gonna fucking do this. And man, that's absolutely what I would recommend as far as that goes. I guess if I were to answer the question maybe a little more seriously, as far as like what's the best thing that you could add, especially if you're just starting out, and like you don't have a selection of weights or something. I don't know if I covered this in the recent fitness special that I did, but you really want to start off, like, you don't want to just kick into using weights. Okay. You want to do a lot of body weight exercises, maybe for like up to 3, maybe even 6 months. Until you're like really mastering what your body can do, okay, when you're working out. So if you're just starting out, or even if you're advanced and you don't have one of these, though, you could use, if you have the right kind of dumbbells, you could do this. What do they call them? Like perfect push-up, where it's like this handle, these handle things that you can put down on the floor, and they aid you in like giving you like really good form, and a better platform, maybe even, or not platform, because it's just a handle that you're holding and that's raised. That allows you to do a push-up. I think you can get a set of those for like $20, not even. Push-ups are such great full body workouts, and also the way that you do a push-up. Like if you have your legs raised, or if you're, doing it like a diamond shape, or, where your hands are in the shape of a diamond or something like that. Like a push-up can concentrate on so many different muscle groups, and it can really, you can do split workouts with push-ups alone. It's so incredible. It's such an incredible workout that people forget about. Even people that are hitting weights all the time, in my opinion, should still do push-ups, whenever you can, because there's so few workouts that activate everything or that can activate what you want in so many different muscle groups, or even concentrate, not even when you want to activate so many, but concentrate on them in such unique ways, like a push-up. So push-ups are quintessential. If you had to add one thing, and especially if you're just getting started, get some of those perfect push-up like handle things, and that way you can get really good form, because form is everything, even when you're just starting out and you're doing push-ups. Okay, and they offer a ton of options as far as that goes. Maybe another one you might want to consider is they have these things. They look like walkers. This is similar to the perfect push-up. They look like walkers, where like it's like an old person carrying a walker or whatever. And it's for doing dips. Like you can do tricep dips with it, but also with one of those devices. Okay. where it allows you could do not just dips, but you could lay back, you could be on your back and hold on, and you can do kind of like almost a pull-up, like a modified pull-up where your feet are still on the ground. And I mean, that's great for your biceps. That's great for, your back and all this different stuff. There's a lot of different exercises that you could do with one of those. I forget exactly what they call them. I mean, I think they just call them like dipping bars or something, but you can do so much more than dips with them. But understand that especially if you're just starting out and if you're looking for arms, to build up arms first and foremost, which I certainly recommend, if you're a guy particularly anyway, one of the best things you can do is really get like big triceps, because triceps are always there. You don't really flex triceps. They're what fills out the sleeve of your t-shirt. Not so much the biceps. Okay. Even though you can work out to where your biceps are always there, certainly. But triceps are actually a really big deal. Some people, like, you look at John Cena and some of these other guys, like they have kind of freakish biceps or triceps. But yeah, you really want to concentrate on triceps a lot. And I think a lot of people skip doing that. And, so getting a dipping station like that allows you to work out a lot of different body parts for a very inexpensive price. And I mean, they're light. They're just like this aluminum thing. You can put it in the corner of a room. There's nothing to them. But you can do tricep dips, and you can do kind of a modified pull-ups and all that on it. It's really, really great. And it's not a noisy piece of equipment at all either. If you're in an apartment or something, both the perfect push-up stuff and that, and the dipping, station or bar or whatever, both of those are great for, like, if you're working out in an apartment or in a small room or something like that. I mean, they're just fantastic. So that's what I recommend. And of course, get that Rocky CD. All right. Get that Rocky album, get that going. That's it for this week, for this week's Wednesday Q&A. And of course will there be one more? I think maybe there'll be one more in January. Let's see here. Yeah. The last one, there actually will be one more in January. So get your questions in. Of course, the best way to send them to me is via the Patreon Messenger or on Patreon in general. It's a great way. You can also send them to me on Twitter as well. And again, one of the easiest ways, if you want to let me know, first off, because you're a patron, you're letting me know that you appreciate my work. And I thank you for that. Like, you have no idea how much I thank you. But the other way is to just give me a heart or a comment or something on this actual sound on Patreon. That is a tremendous help. You don't have to. I know most people don't. A lot of people don't even go to the Patreon page anymore. They pretty much just find out about everything through their email, or they get it right in their favorite podcast app, which I think it's great. I don't necessarily need you to be going somewhere else. But if you want to, give me a heart, let me know that you liked it or whatever, and share your thoughts, of course. And I do read everything that anybody ever sends in, even though I don't always, not everything needs a response, but even though I don't always respond. So appreciate it. And I will see all of you on the other side. Woo!